It is Bill McLean's Sports Show. We are talking about the St. Mary's women's hockey situation, and we are joined on the phone by Mr. Steve Sarty, the Director of Athletics and Recreation. Mr. Sarty, thank you very much.
No problem, Bill.
People are, talking about saving it, but are you aware of anybody, either alumni or what have you, has already stepped up and said, I'm willing to give this much to contribute?
Yes, I actually am aware of some of those people.
And is it looking like we're on our way to maybe getting the program saved?
I guess I wouldn't comment too much on that, Bill, other than the fact that it's the situation that we spoke about last night where it's paused.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't changed, but paused is actually it's a very good thing. It's a positive situation because the Board of Governors is going to look at the situation in greater detail. So, the amount of money that I'm aware of that's come forward so far is not, it's a significant amount of money. But as far as how much money we need to save the program, we're not to that point yet. But certainly the awareness and the galvanization of the community behind the program has been positive and very good to see.
The student involvement been so far, other than the athletes involved in the team?
The student involvement would vary greatly. Some students are very supportive of it. Some students understand that we're in tough economic times and difficult decisions have to be made. So I would say the student response has been sort of quite varied. I mean, the good thing about what's taken place in the last sort of 72 hours is the awareness that people are now going to have about the situation that we have at hand. I mean, money just doesn't continue to get handed out to all the departments within the university, and we're just one of those departments. So people need to understand that, like I said last night, it was great to see that many people supporting the hockey team last night. But the reality of the situation is when the hockey team starts to play again in 2011, if the situation gets reversed and we do have a women's hockey team, we need to see those people out supporting the team. And when we have fundraising initiatives, the reason why we're doing those things is to raise funds. Mm-hmm. And we need those funds raised because we need to continue to have the tradition of excellence that we're used to here at St. Mary's University. And in order to do that, there's an expense to it. Equipment isn't any cheaper. The price of gas is through the roof. Our teams travel by bus. The cost to rent a bus goes up. I mean, it's things that people don't realize, and that's the fact of the matter. It's not a gender issue. It's a business decision when you have to look at any corporation when you have to decide. This is what we need to do. You have to make tough decisions, and the reality of it is the things we have, like our super auction, which comes up on March 31st, the Harley Davidson, which we're selling tickets for $20 each. Those are means that we have gone to try to raise funds to make our department viable and keep our family together and keep our department sustainable long term.
Steve, one of the big questions is how do you come and choose just one sport to cut from? A lot of detractors are saying why not cut a little bit from different teams? Instead, cutting a defending AUS championship team, how do you come about that decision?
Well, I know, and it's hard for people to understand without all the facts, and it's interesting why people make statements when they really don't know all the information, but that's what people do. To weaken all of our teams is not really something that we want to do, and there's not 10% or 5% even in any of our varsity sports operating budget that's not being used. So our operating budgets are very lean. They're exactly pretty much to the dollar the money that the teams need to compete. And when I say to compete, it means to buy their equipment, to travel, to feed the athletes, to stay in hotels on the road. There is no fluff in their budgets. So if that had been an option, we certainly would have done that. But when you're talking about carving out such a significant amount of money, to take it from 10 to 12 sports and weaken all 10 to 12 didn't make sense as an option. To cut any varsity sport, successful or not successful, is not something I ever want to have to do. Mm-hmm. But when you're faced with the reality of the situation in a business, like I've said before, many different, does it make sense to close a elementary school in a community? Mm-hmm. Well, no, it doesn't. And no one ever wants to have to do that. But sometimes the finances dictate the situation. So never ever do I want to have to cut a varsity sport. But the reality of the situation is costs are escalating. This is an expensive sport to run, as are some of our other sports. And we hope we can get the financial support, the community support, like we saw last night, to keep this team in existence for long into the future.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the effect that it has on you. I mean, you played football. You know what these kids are going through in terms of what they sacrifice. What kind of effect has this had on you personally? It's been obviously a hard 5 days. How hard has this been on you personally? This whole situation.
It's been terrible, but it's been equally, or it's been much harder on the women involved. So, and I'm very, the most difficult thing to date is when we had to tell the team on Friday to see their reactions and the hurt and all that sort of thing. That was terrible, and I am a very optimistic, positive guy, and I want to have people to enjoy their experience. And I talk to our student athletes about what a strong family we have here. So having to do something like what took place on Friday was awful for many people. Close to the sport itself and in the community, and hopefully it's something we can find some finances to keep the team alive and not be faced with that kind of situation.
People are talking about if this goes through, you'll have no full-time women coaches at St. Mary's. Is this something that you guys are thinking about?
It's an interesting topic for discussion, because if you look at our coaching staff, we had a women's soccer coaching vacancy, and we posted it nationally. And I interviewed every person that applied that was qualified, and there was 9, and not one person was female. So I hired the most qualified candidate, which I would have done anyway. I hired the most qualified people to be here. Lisa's absolutely qualified as a women's hockey coach. We're happy to have her here. Just like our women's soccer coach is more than qualified, highly qualified. And if you talk to anybody on our women's soccer team, they're very pleased to have our coach there. But no women applied. So do I hire no one? I hire the most qualified candidate. If you looked in our office staff, myself and one other are the only males in the office. We have 5 women who work in the office. So 5 women, 2 male. But I don't look at it that way. We have a coach with a disability. I don't look at it that way. We hire the most qualified people and do the best job we possibly can. So many people. I mean, I understand the gender issue is going to come out. But when it comes right to it's not about that. Hopefully, with anybody, I would always hire the most qualified person. Ideally, I'd have a female coaching a female sport. You know what? It's a dose of reality, because the O'Neill report came out not too long ago, which made people aware of the fact that funding and universities are going to have to change to be successful going forward. Then there's a provincial cut in funding to the universities. You're kidding yourself if you don't think those things are going to affect departments within universities. So we are very proud of the tradition of excellence that we have at St. Mary's University. We're a very strong athletic school, but you need to make decisions to continue to be that way. You look no further than UNB, which cut 3 programs 3 years ago because they were spread too thin. And arguably UNB has had the strongest year of any school in the AOS this year. They won women's volleyball, men's volleyball, and they won men's hockey. So whether it's right or wrong, it's the reality. Funding is being taken away. You need to make tough decisions to survive long term. Part of it is we need to have, all those people that were at the rally last night were coming out to women's hockey games and supporting the women's hockey games, and doing what they said they were going to do last night, we won't be having this conversation.
Right.
Because that's the reality. And people are quick, the old adage, talk is cheap. People are quick to say, don't get rid of it. Okay, great. Are you coming out and supporting it? And I've had lots of emails from people, and one gentleman, he said he was at 12 of 14 games this year, which is great. Those are the kind of people that do what they say they're going to do. They come to the games, and they have every right to be disappointed because they've spent their money and they've supported the teams. It's the people that don't come out to the games that say, how come you're getting rid of this team? And you can look them right in the face and say, well, you didn't come out and support them. So we need those people to continue this momentum. Buy tickets to our super auction. Buy tickets to our Harley-Davidson. Come out and buy your ticket to the game, whether it's a football game, a basketball game, or women's hockey game. All of the gate receipts go towards supporting the whole athletic department.